All right, all right. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody, to Created Hours, our weekly office hours show that we do every other week or so, or well, whenever I can squeeze the time in. I do apologize. I am you don't do the show for 2 weeks, and you'll be amazed at how much stuff you forget about how to do it. But welcome back, everyone. If you don't know, this is one of our 3 shows that we do every week. It's Created Hours. We try to provide office hours to help the community by answering questions to help people get unstuck in any way that they may be stuck. And when we don't have folks here who might have questions, then I rant about random things. And we'll wait and see if anyone shows up with a question later. But I did want to talk today a little bit about this idea of sort of intimacy. And the intimacy of relationships ultimately through our communication styles. Because as someone building a live streaming platform, we often get asked the question, are people going to keep doing this? Or are they going to still do this, after everyone can go back outside? And I think there's a lot to be said for the need to connect as humans to each other. And there's sort of to me at least, and this is sort of like the base of like potentially a thread, I guess I'm thinking about, but I think there are, there are different layers here of engagement and intimacy that sort of come inherently from the different communication tools that we have available to us, right? So I don't know why. I was never a consultant, but like I always go to 2x2 grids. And one of the sort of 2x2s that I've thought about here is sort of like, on one axis is sort of like moving between intimate and public, right? And on the other axis, kind of on the bottom, I think about like the fidelity, right? So kind of something that's low fidelity versus something that's sort of like high fidelity. And the way I've been thinking about this is almost like if you imagine sort of like a triangle. What's that thing called? What kind of triangle is it again? Isosceles triangle? Is that the right one? I can't remember. It's been a long time since I had to use that word. But the idea is like that. I think on the kind of a low fidelity sort of public sphere. Oh, I did my things backwards. But I think, I think about like text comments, right? And the things that we say sort of out loud, no matter what, or who's watching, and sort of they're available for almost everyone to see. The purveyor of sort of the biggest sort of this is probably the social platforms where we garner, by the way, probably even before that, I should put on this list probably reactions, right? Like, like likes and hearts and stuff like that, right? And I think the social platforms are sort of the primary purveyors or places where this kind of engagement is happening. And then we've got like our text-based comments, which I think, offers a little bit more fidelity, quote unquote, worth a little bit more to people. But, they're still out in the open. And they can be long or they can be short. So they don't necessarily have to not offer value per se. Right. But I do think, you can have very passionate conversation there and you can have completely trivial conversations in there. As you continue to like sort of move up that slope though, I think the next arena of things I think is interesting is sort of like what I'll call like text-based chat. This is like, prominent like in tools like Discord and Slack. And, I think it's, when we're looking at sort of like the ability to build community, why are there 150 million Discord servers? Because there's a bunch of people who think like the best way to talk to each other is like through text messages. And I remember these days, like when I was way back for all the kids out there, it was on AIM and ICQ and things like that. We were just sort of chatting with each other and it felt like the future, right? Because up until then, if you wanted to talk to someone, this is like the 90s, okay? But if you wanted to talk to someone, then you had to call them or you had to write them a letter, right? And so this like ability or, in BBSs and whatnot to sort of be able to chat with each other through text, I think was really powerful. It's still powerful today. But it is, I would say, I guess I'm turning on this a little bit to some degree because I do feel like it's getting so noisy, right? Like, we're going to talk about this probably on Friday, but Discord just launched like new premium memberships, which is a way to basically drop people from being in the room or like limiting it to sort of, I think, get to higher signal. I had to turn off, I have to open Discord intentionally now because like the notifications on Discord are so incredibly terrible that you just hear the sound all day and you can't like ever like concentrate or do anything else. And apparently there's some approaches or like ways you can go in and do all these actions to sort of make it work for you, but I don't have the time for that. Also, the unsolicited DM spam is, a whole other fascinating aspect of like being in the Discord life. But text chat is great. It I'm also like not a huge fan of Slack in a lot of ways, like because I feel like it's missing sort of the knowledge management part of it. And I think like what ends up happening is like the things that matter don't end up living to serve the community, except if you have the time to literally read back through and parse through all of it. Now, I know there's been some technologies being created that are add-ons to like Zoom and or to Slack and things like that to do summaries. So I think we're going to see more technology here, but I do think like from growing engagement, if your community is purely text-based chat, I think it's possible for it to be very valuable. But when we look at most of the human models of like connecting, text-based chat does not do it. Now, I think like there's different demographics and personas that like prefer this, and it's the only way that they want to operate, and that totally makes sense to me. But I think this, and by the way, this is not like an either or sort of discussion in my mind. It's really about sort of just trying to understand like the modalities here and what they may be good at or bad at. So I think above text-based chat, we end up with what we could call live audio, right? Which is the Clubhouses, the Twitter Spaces, and now like say Discord stages, right? Which offer I think a lot more intimacy because voice is extremely intimate. You don't appreciate this. I think it's easy to not appreciate this. But after, being a Clubhouse user and growing an audience over there, and really getting to meet and know people, I can say for sure that audio does offer a tremendous amount to people. And you can learn a lot, you can hear a lot, and you can feel a lot with live audio as well. And I think that this is a really nice and interesting layer to sit on top of, text-based chats, or really as another tool in the community toolkit. There's challenges, of course, with audio, but I don't think that I think it may be a very happy medium, relatively speaking, because people being able to just listen passively in the background, probably pretty good. It doesn't impose being seen unless you want to be seen. I mean, obviously, you can always turn off the camera if you're not interested in sort of showing yourself, but it removes the pressure to feel like you should turn on your camera, right? Because if 4 other people have their camera on and you're the 5th, then you feel weird, maybe, right? And so there could be pressure there. But so I think like live audio has definitely presented like as an interesting, happy medium in sort of like getting the warmth and the intimacy, while also being able to happen, scale from like extremely public to more intimate scenarios or situations. I get asked at least once a week. I don't know why everyone asks me this, but like what's going to happen to Clubhouse, I don't know. Like my opinions generally is that there's still time for them to be successful. And I think as we've seen, people are reacting, or the team at Clubhouse seems to be moving faster. I think there are a lot of obstacles to overcome. And audio, again, I think with all community artifacts, to the extent that they don't produce an archive or produce a way for people who can't be actively and like literally there at the time, or temporarily there at the time, then you're sort of leaving behind a lot of the members. And that doesn't seem like an ideal way to sort of build an interesting audience. You ready, Ken? Are you here? So then I'll finish this. Then I want to hear your thoughts on this, Ken. After that, walking up the slope again, I think like after live audio, I would say there's live video, things like Zoom, StreamYard, OBS, and of course, all the social platforms provide opportunities for doing live audio, live video as well. And I think this again provides an additional layer of intimacy because you are seeing someone, there's expressiveness, it comes across in how they look. You can also tell if they're like paying attention or not paying attention, right? A little easier, right? Like, so, are they eating lunch? Are they actually on the phone? Like, et cetera. And then usually, by the way, accompanying live audio video, especially live video, tends to be chat, right? Actually, there's no chat in Spaces, right, Ken? Technically, and Clubhouse doesn't really have it either. Discord has it though, right? But Clubhouse, there's sort of the DM thing, and you're usually chatting, but it's not supported natively in the tool yet, at least. And I think on Twitter Spaces, not so much either. It's very hard. You have to sort of do everything in a published, posted kind of way to really talk to each other. But I imagine that live chat will also become sort of part of that experience. Video has it for sure, though, right? Like, YouTube, Twitch, doesn't matter. You can do live chat in those environments. So going past live video, which I think tends to be the public version of this thing, is then what I would probably call group video, which tends to be a more intimate version of things. And this might happen inside of Zoom. We saw like Mighty Networks launched, like live streaming inside of your community. Circle and tools like this, I think many of them offer sort of a version or variation of live streaming internally to their tools. And I think like the smallness of the group tends to lead to more intimate relationships, leads to a bit more of a feeling of belonging someplace, right? As opposed to like in an anonymous mass of people. And then the final place I have at the end is just sort of that one-on-one, which is the ultimate, the high intimacy, high fidelity sort of place. And I think a Cameo a little bit fits in here, but I think like things like Super Peer, obviously Zoom again would be, sort of in the mix here, offering sort of obviously the ability to do one-on-one calls or other kinds of calls. So I don't know. I was just pondering this because I was the other day because I was thinking about all the modalities that we have to communicate, but like why are certain tools popular versus not popular? And like, what's the escape velocity, from one format to another, right? Like, like can a Discord become a good video place, right? Can a YouTube live stream become a good audio thing, right? I think a lot of creators sort of struggle with this challenge, this question themselves of, if I was going to do another platform, could I do an audio platform, right? Like, does that make sense, or whatever it may be? So I don't know, Ken, what do you think? Good to see you again.
Oh, likewise. Good to see you. How was your time off? Did you have fun in the snow?
It was good, but it's stressful when you have a startup to take time off. And I really wish, I really do encourage people to have like work-life balance as best as possible. I did my best. So for example, I usually get up at 4 a.m. anyway, or 3 a.m, sometimes even more often probably. So, I had my anniversary trip this week or last week. So I got up early and I worked, right? Like I would work like at 4 or 5 a.m, like till, we would ski. We skied every day. I skied for 5 days. We did like 40 runs, I think, like in 5 days. It was great. But, we were, my wife was very, accommodating, and we took it easy in the morning to start, but, I was able to leave at like 10 and go ski instead of, and so I'd still do 5 hours of work, 6 hours of work, potentially like in the morning before we got out. But, you're on the slopes and you're just still like thinking about it. You're like, we're fundraising, we're recruiting customers, like we're doing all these things, right? Like new team members joining, like all this fun stuff is happening, but it's stressful, and being right after Thanksgiving, also being away for a week, just like, wow.
It feels like you're taking like 2 weeks off. You're like, wait, why? That feels a little.
I was like, oh, how does Stream Deck work again? I can't remember like how to use the button.
Next time, just put little Post-its. So like, step one, press this one.
Right now. Yeah. So I guess like, I'm curious, what do you think about this idea, or sort of like these modalities of communication?
So I think there's one thing that you brought up earlier. So it's a little bit of a question, tossed back to you, but also an observation. One is, let's start with more of the observation. Let's kind of sandwich it. So observation, question, observation. Observation is a lot of these. I think what's not shared a lot is the notion of communication between creators and builders and users, right? The name of the game is no longer, when you have Facebook, it's a B2C approach, right? There's a company, a platform to users, and those users it's an umbrella type of situation. Then you look into the creator economy. It's a little bit more nuanced, and it becomes a B2B to C. So the builders are reaching out to the creators, and the creators are reaching out to their users. So what's at play here is, how do you deal with, how do these notifications, how do these communications manage at scale, right? And you find it becoming overwhelming, because you might follow, I follow Simu Liu from the star of Shang-Chi and Kim's Convenience on Instagram, but I also follow a bunch of other celebrities. I follow a bunch of other creators. I follow, Tom Buck and Heather Ramirez. All these people that we follow who may have active followings, active communities on traditional social media, or have their own Discord, or so on and so forth, right? Those, if you just follow on one community, it's fine, right? It's like, oh, okay, you wake up, it's manageable. But now you have all these different aspects where, what happens if you follow two prolific creators that with engaging communities? That can start to feel overwhelming. Then you tack on Slack for work, and you tack on Microsoft Teams for work, or then you tack on traditional social media for regular things. Then you find yourself with notification fatigue. I think notification fatigue has been around for many years. This is nothing new, but I think it's just more so that you have a lot more, that you have a lot of conversation, a lot of chatty people that is just going to inundate you. And it's like, how do builders? So the question would be, like, how do builders, as they're doing these type of things? Oh, Greg, you just dropped out. Nope, you're on mute now.
I double booked real quick. I'm trying to see if I can push the thing off.
Okay. But yeah, so I think the question here is, like, how do builders come at it and say, like, look, let's make these notifications smarter, right? Is there a way for that to be smart? And if you can't make it smart, like, how do you have the right notification go out to the people at the right time? And some people do, some services may do little digests of sorts. So when you log in, it's like you get this one lump sum, as opposed to just kind of always being on, and you get that fear of notification. So I think that's the problem that people face. So that's a question that hopefully Greg will be able to answer when he joins back. I think other observations would be, look, I think when it comes to these type of these DNA, the DNA for Discord has always been text. It's not, it's kind of branched off into other things. Same thing for Slack. That's their DNA. So I think, if you're talking about, like, extending from, let's go from, can an audio platform exist? Can an audio feature exist on Discord? Absolutely. I think it's all a matter of, like, how adaptable that platform's DNA, how adaptable the team is willing to be for that, right? That's not to say, like, Zealous couldn't extend to just being a podcasting platform. You have all the bells and whistles. It's all about the culture and your mannerisms and how you perceive the overall media in space, as opposed to just focusing on, our bread and butter is just on text, right? So, Greg, I'm not sure if you heard my earlier question, in terms of how do you manage, is it possible for builders to create smarter notifications so that so that their users and the creators don't find themselves facing notification fatigue, because that's been around for forever.
Yeah. So I think there's a few solutions here, but I don't think they're well advanced yet, right? I think one, I've always wanted this feature, even in Zealous, like of a super bell sort of concept, but where you could filter it. Like you should be able to like two things here. Like one, as a user, it'd be great if I could say, if it mentions X word, then I want to be notified, right? Alternatively, or maybe in this, along with that, it could be things that we think you'd want to be notified about, right? Like, so like learning over time and then saying, yeah, Greg dismisses these automatically or never clicks on these, like don't send him these notifications anymore, right? Also, I think having more controls intentionally as new objects are created about who to notify is another way to mitigate some of the risk, right? Of like sort of like this fatigue. Like, no, don't tell everybody, right, that I just made this post. Actually, can you tell the people, like, and some of these like kind of exist, like it sends it to the people who are on the thread, or it's like send it to only paid members. Like these are some kinds of filters, but maybe there's other ways. And because like, sorry. Ooh, ran over the dog. Hold on a sec. Sorry. Come here.
Yes. No, I mean, I think to that point, Greg, it's like, is there a way that you could do, I'm not sure about from the builder standpoint, but should there be more emphasis on fine tuning those notifications for giving the users more granular control of the notifications? I think the notification preferences are pretty basic right now. I mean, they're very high level, but should you be able to give them a little bit more specific type of stuff?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, and it's been a long time that we've had to try to work on this problem, right? Like, it's not like this is a new problem.
Yeah.
I do think though that this runs into a separate problem. Like I think the Discord thing, and obviously it's a challenge that everyone who builds a community has, is that the same thing with notifications is just like also rolls up to like, which conversations do I care about, right? Like, if you're in a group of 10,000 people, all like creating threads and talking about different things, like all of them aren't relevant to me either, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so there's a bit of fatigue, right? Like where you can just have a ton of noise coming out of a thing. Like anyone who's been in a sufficiently large, live stream knows that you can't follow the chat, right? And they have like slow mode, literally to intentionally rate limit like how fast people can post on Twitch, right? So I think like you see a bunch of these things happening. I do think we need to see much more innovation here.
Yeah, I would love to see like some sort of like an AI that you could that people incorporate, so that it's, I guess it's almost like Gmail to a certain degree. Like it will kind of surface the based on your activities, like, oh, did you fave this? Did you mark this as spam or whatever? Like to kind of like say, okay, bubble what, highlight whatever is important. So, and also give you like a morning digest or and an evening digest. It's like, hey, this is what it is. I think there's the glamour and glitz for builders is largely to get the front end side of things out, like make it as polished as possible. Like, hey, this is what the user is going to be seeing. But I think that the companies that moving forward need to also be spending time on the notification side and giving much more control. So that way, if their platform blows up and becomes like a huge success, and you get the massive audience like a Discord or a Slack or a Twitch or whatever, that you're able to give that you don't run into this issue of like, oh my God, I have to turn off all this thing. It's just unbearable. I can't deal with like the Discord. Like we have like the means of Discord, means of creation Discord channel server that I'm on, that both of us are on, and we're having Jen on the show tomorrow. But it's a popular server. I can't keep up with it. It's like I go in there and it's like it's completely like madness because there's so much conversation happening. Great conversation. It's just like how do I find what's relevant to me? So if Discord had an option for me to kind of like surface to specify what I want to hear, what I don't want to hear, what I want to get pinged on, what I want to get a push notification on, what I don't want to be like. Absolutely, it may not seem like the glamour and glitz for builders, but I think to give the users that control and allow and give the benefit to the creators is like, hey, creators, this is going to help people out to have some order out of the chaos. I think that's a good thing. I don't know if that's actually a sound strategy for builders, but that's my recommendation. I think that would be a good thing.
Yeah. Well, totally. And I do apologize, Ken. I think this is a good convo, though. I do have to run. I forgot. I think I planned to start this call later today, but yeah. All right. Anyway.
Well, that was office hours. We talked about intimate communication.
Like, here's the thing. We like to we don't do our deep dives anymore on Friday because basically like we end up getting too much news. That was a little bit of a dive of it too. But I do appreciate it. And thanks for sharing the convo. And I agree, Ken. I think like this is an area that we do need to work on because like you cannot overcome the parts where you feel like you're drowning or you have to be there all the time if you don't put a hose on this also, right? Like the consumers, the creators themselves, right? Like you're always going to feel overwhelmed if you're missing something. I feel like everyone involved in like Web3 right now feels like if they go to sleep, they're going to lose like a million opportunities and billions of dollars, right? And all of that needs to change as well. In any event, we will see you guys tomorrow. By the way, we do have Jen Lee on from the Means of Creation Discord. It's going to be a great chat, I am sure. So looking forward to it. Ken, good seeing you again, and thanks for popping in. And we'll be back soon. Bye, everyone.